Hi, I'm Ian Massey. I'm the owner of Upland Consulting, and I hope things are going well for you. Here at Upland Consulting, we're based in the beautiful, gorgeous southwest corner of Australia, and we work with clients near and far, clients typically who are business owners or part of a group that owns a business, and we help them to get more of what they should be getting from their businesses. This little video, we're going to talk a little bit about business planning. It's a topic that many people run away from. It's a topic that's surrounded by an unnecessary amount of mystique, and it's a topic that is often mishandled. So the first question for me, at any rate, with the matter of having a business plan is why? Now, the fact is that most business owners produce a business plan because they're told to, because the bank said so, because they can't get that grant if they don't, because they won't be able to get onto that support scheme for businesses unless they do so, because they can't get the export finance unless they do so. Well, those are among the reasons to produce a business plan, but none of those is the best reason to produce a business plan. I'm going to let you in on two secrets about business plans right now. But first, let's just notice that the conventional reasons for producing a business plan are not necessarily very good. The great majority of those plans that are produced at the behest of a bank or a granting body or a government support agency or someone like that, the great majority of those finish up on the shelf, steadily sinking into oblivion. Maybe once in a while, the people who did all the work on them think really must get back to that sometime. But they're certainly not living documents. And they're certainly not helping the business to achieve its ongoing objectives, even if they got you through that one particular hoop that you were required to jump through. As a consequence of that, 4 out of 5 Australian small and medium businesses don't have a business plan. You know what? I don't really blame them. That brings us back to these two little secrets about business plans, which I think explains that and helps us to get past that obstacle. The first is that the most important audience for a business plan is you, the business owner, or you, the business owners. Sure, the bank will look at it. Sure, that government body will look at it. Sure, your partners or your investors will look at it. But the most important audience is you, the business owner or owners. The second thing, and it's correlated with the first secret, is that the work of producing the business plan is vastly more valuable and more important than the written plan itself. A written business plan matters. You should have one. I'm not going to try and get away from that. But more important still is the work that you put into thinking, visualizing, calculating, generating that business plan. And it's got to be written or it doesn't count. That's why a business plan is important. It's important for you, the owner, and it's important because of the work that you do to produce the plan, much more than the plan itself. Come back to the second one just briefly. One reason that the work is more important than the written document is that the plan is going to change or it's going to be out of date as soon as you get your first surprise, pleasant or unpleasant. You finish that plan, you think, wow, that's done. Let's celebrate. And the next thing that happens in business is a surprise comes along. And it's precisely at this point that the work you did in producing the plan will take over. The plan itself may become partly irrelevant, totally irrelevant. It may still be a good guide for what you want to do. It will need updating. But what will stand you in good stead when that moment comes is the work you've done on producing the plan. Okay, so let's talk about what a plan is. That's a little bit about why. How about the what? Well, here's a few things that a good business plan isn't. For one thing, it's not a strategy. Strategy is a higher level. It's more permanent. It's more of a helicopter perspective. A strategy is about what business you're in, who's going to buy your goods and services, why are they going to do so. It's about your position in your business ecosystem and in your marketplace. Strategy doesn't change very often. And by the same token, your business plan is not your to-do list. It actually sits somewhere between your strategy and your to-do list. You should revise it more often than your strategy, less often than your to-do list. But a business plan is there to guide you and to give you signposts and to give you something to monitor your progress against on the basis of week by week, month by month, year by year. That's what a business plan is. It's kind of like a strategy, but it isn't really a strategy. It's got to refer to your strategy. It's got to be derived from your strategy. Second thing a business plan isn't, it isn't a budget. It should incorporate a budget. And I'm going to say a fair bit more about budgeting. But a budget alone is not a business plan, because a business plan has to be telling you how you're going to achieve the things that you've set out in your budget. The third thing a business plan is not, and a great many business plans that I've seen fall into this era, it is not a sales forecast. Writing down this quarter, we're going to increase our sales by 20% is not a business plan. It may be a realistic goal. It may be an unrealistic goal. It's a target, a goal, a forecast, not a plan. Plan tells you how. And finally, another thing that a business plan is not, it's not a wish list. Unless that plan has got not only what you would like to see happen, but how and when and who's going to be responsible and what resources you're going to need in terms of money or outside expertise or other help. Unless the business plan includes those factors, it's going to be just a wish list. So you say, well, next quarter we're going to increase our sales by, hell with 20%. Let's call it 50%. Okay. For that to stop being an item on a wish list and start being an item in the business plan, who's going to do that? How are they going to do that? When are they going to do that? What exact initiatives are going to bring that about? What resources are going to be required? Who's going to be held accountable? Those are the elements of a plan. So all of those things that a business plan isn't may come into a business plan, but they don't constitute a business plan. So we come back to what is a good business plan about. First of all, it's about what you, the business owner or the business owner group, are going to do. It's a business plan for your course of action. It's not about someone else. It's not about the market or the sales force or the employees or anything else like that, the economy. No, it's about what are you going to do. Secondly, a business plan is going to be about what are you going to do different. If your plan is just to go on doing the same, then by all means go ahead. You will find after a little while that you're on a steady slope down to the bottom if you don't change something, because everything in our business environment is constantly changing. So a business plan has to include what initiatives are you, the business owner, going to get underway and going to see through. Maybe it's a new product line. Maybe it's a new premises. Maybe it's a new division, new staff, new investment in marketing. Whatever it may be, there's something that you're going to have to do different to your business plan, or else that plan is just going to take you to the bottom. Another component that's got to be in a good business plan is the risk. It's very, very easy to say, we're going to open a new store and over 6 months that new store is going to come up to the level of turnover of our existing store and we're going to sell these many things and this much margin and so on and so forth. Well, what if not? What are the risks? What could cause you to fall off that particular bicycle? Maybe a competitor gazumping you on that store or that line of business. Maybe the economy hits another one of those air pockets that it's always hitting. Maybe there's a staffing issue that prevents you carrying that through in the time that you envisage. Whatever it isn't a good plan unless you've thought about those risks and you've got a way to address those risks. Maybe you can't eliminate them, but you can say, well, if this happens, then we respond in this way. The fourth thing that really ought to be in a good business plan, and it's related to what I just said about risk, is where's your margin for error? Okay. You put in a forecast that you're going to have this much money coming in from a new product line or a new store or whatever it may be. And where's your margin for error? What if that doesn't happen? What's your position if that comes in 50% below your expectations? What's your position if that comes in 50% above your expectations and you're seriously working your bum off and it's not sustainable? Both of those things happen. So components of a good business plan are these. What are you, the business owner or owner group, going to do? What initiatives are you going to kick off and take responsibility for and see through to completion? What are the risks of those initiatives? And where is your margin for error? What are you going to do when your plan doesn't go according to plan? Because London to a brick, that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay, that's a broad outline. We don't have time to go into exactly how you would construct one of those. And it's a bit of a craft. And there's a balance to be struck here between doing a business plan just according to a formula, like banks and other people will give you, in effect, a template, fill in the blanks. There's a balance between doing that and just going around in circles. Okay. Somewhere in the middle there, you might want help from someone like us to strike that right balance for generating your business plan. But I'm going to come back to budgets, as I promised. A budget has to be in a business plan. It's a component of a business plan. We are in business to make money. That's not our ultimate purpose. See another video that I've already made. It's not our purpose, it's not our rocket fuel, but if we're not making a profit in our business, then we're not able to achieve all the other noble ends that our business exists for. And actually, we don't have a business. We have an expensive hobby. So here's a very quick rundown on my approach to budgeting. And if you join our Kickstart program, there'll be a lot more on this as we get into it. We can take a view of a business budget, any business, any budgeting period, and we can say there are 5 lines that really matter. Summarize all of those lists and lists of numbers in the chart of accounts, crunch them down, there are 5 lines. Top line, number 1, is the revenue or the income or the sales. That is the money that is going to flow into your business as a result of selling goods and or services to the customers of your business. I like to call it revenue. That's only one name, but that is the top line. The second line is, what does it cost you to deliver those goods and services? If you contract in labour to do heavy-duty civil works, for example, then part of your cost of generating that revenue is the labour and machinery that you contract in. If you're retailing goods, then part of the cost of generating the income from your retail activities is what you buy in order to resell it. Now, this is often called COGS, which stands for cost of goods sold. But whatever you call it, it's the costs that are incurred in generating that revenue that was at the top line. And that's the second line of your budget. The third line of your budget, and the hinge on which the whole thing pivots, is A minus B. It's that revenue line, that income line, minus the direct cost of generating that revenue. And the name of that third line is gross profit. And that is the pivotal number in the whole budget for your business. 2 more lines to go, right? Because I said there are 5. So to recap, we have income, revenue or sales. We have the cost of generating that income. And A minus B, we have gross profit that results. The next line, number 4, is the costs that your business incurs, whether you sell anything today or not. So a vehicle might be part of your business model for deliveries or for personal transport. That vehicle is going to need servicing, there's going to be depreciation, there's going to be insurances, perhaps hire purchase on it, whether you sell anything today or not. So those are the so-called fixed costs. They're harder to change usually than the cost of goods sold. That's line 4 of the budget. In there might go, if you have an admin assistant who is not directly generating revenue in your business, then that person's wages could be among the fixed costs. Typically, it's things like insurances, because we're going to have to pay insurances anyway. Right? That's the 4th line. And the 5th line is gross profit, line 3, minus those fixed costs, line 4. And that 5th line, the bottom line, is called net profit. And that's the reward that you get as the business owner for all of the blood, sweat and tears, for all of those late nights and early mornings, for all of the fingernails bitten down to the knuckles. That's your reward, the net profit at the bottom line, the 5th line. So here's my approach to budgeting. First of all, costs. Who's the customer for the costs in your business? You are, in a way, right? The customer for the goods or services are the customer. The customer for the costs are you, in the sense that you make the decision to incur or not incur those costs. So you might decide, well, we won't replace the ute this year, but that means we'll be up for another major service and another set of tyres. We'll make that decision. You're the customer for the costs. So think about what costs are you really going to incur and why, and what benefits will incurring those costs bring to your business. On the revenue side, simply putting in a number, we made X last year, so we're going to make X plus 10% this year. That's crap. You have no control over that. That is just fantasizing. So my approach to revenue budgeting is to take the view of what would need to be true and to work back upwards through those 5 lines from the bottom to the top. So if you need a net profit to have an adequate reward for the risks you've taken and the work that you've put in, and I don't mean the wages that you're drawing from the business, I mean profit. What is that number for you? What is going to be a sufficient reward for you? Then you look at your fixed costs and you look at what is going to be essential regardless of anything that I sell. Then you look at your gross product, which is your gross profit, I beg your pardon, which is the hinge on which the whole thing turns. Then you look at your cost of sales, which is the direct costs of generating the revenue. And then you look at what is the revenue going to have to be to generate that net profit 5 lines down. Very often you'll find when you look at it that your cost of goods sold is some ratio, proportion, percentage of the income that comes in. Very often you will find that your fixed costs are not amenable to much adjustment and you're just going to have to meet them. Perhaps over time you can reduce those, take a hard look, but certainly from month to month, perhaps from quarter to quarter, there may not be much you can do about those. And at the bottom, line 5 comes out the net profit. So for the net profit to be the number that you need as a business owner, what will have to be true at the top line, the revenue? Sounds complicated, I know, and I'm waving my hands around a lot, I know. We'll do a masterclass on this in the Kickstart program, but just in outline, that's my approach to budgeting. You get to control the costs, take a very, very careful look at the costs that you're incurring. You don't get to control the revenue, well, there are things you can do, obviously, to influence the revenue. So the way to look at the revenue is what would have to be true at the top line to give a result I can live with at the bottom line, at the 5th line. That's budgeting, and it's got to be a component of any business plan, along with the other things I've mentioned. It's got to refer to your strategy. It's got to be about who are your customers and why are they going to buy from you. Those are strategy questions, but they've got to be reflected in your business plan. It's got to have budgets and forecasts in it. It's got to be about what initiatives are you, the business owner, or the business owner group going to take to bring about the results that your plan foreshadows, it's got to include an analysis of the risks of doing that and of not doing that. And it's got to state, where is your margin for error? Where's your buffer? What happens if and when it doesn't go to plan? Because sure as heck, sooner or later, your plan won't go to plan. Those are the components of a good business plan. Last but not least, here's my final parting word, promise. Write it down, write it down, write it down. If it's not written, it's not real. You will never hold yourself to it if it's not written down. So whatever shape your business plan takes, whatever help you may have had or not had in generating that business plan, whatever numbers it contains, write it down, write it down, write it down.